Who do I have sitting next to me right now? I have Joe Doolittle, and he is a Alden Joe Doolittle.
Alden Joe Doolittle. I thought I was the turkey. You were talking about the turkey
The Alden,
trot, and I was just...
that was John Alden, but you're Alden Joe.
I'm Alden Joe.
Right, Alden Joe Doolittle. You're related to the Doolittle Flyers?
Actually, I'm going to tell a story about that at a program we have coming up on with the Veterans Administration.
Oh, okay.
And it's a story also with Telebration coming up in November. And it's about Jimmy Doolittle, my cousin, who was a very famous war general and aviator, who was the master of the calculated risk. If you want to know more about that, you'll have to come to Telebration on November 9th.
Wow. And what is Telebration?
Telebration is just one of several really great storytelling programs we have here at Proctor's and at the Glenn Sanders Mansion. And at Telebration, we jury a range of stories around a topic. And in this year, it's courage and remembrance. Okay. And it's the Sunday afternoon just before Veterans Day. And it's at 2 o'clock here in the GE Theater. So people can come and graze the green market and have a little lunch after church, and then have great stories. And then we have, in intermission, we have cookies and punch and apples and wonderful stuff. And we've got 8 wonderful tellers and me telling.
Okay, well, and you, right.
But it's going to be quite a lineup, and that's just our main year. And we take the...
You do Story Sunday, and you do the wordplay. My goodness.
We're just about to open our 15th season at the Glenn Sanders Mansion this Sunday, October 6th, with a Story Sunday, and it's stories of heroines and tricksters.
I love that title.
A great title, with 2 heroines and tricksters, depending on which way they go. Marnie Gillard, who many of you know,
great storyteller.
And Christy Keegan from Saratoga, who is just wonderful, and they both have a range of personal stories and stories set in wonderful places with some vibrant personalities. So don't miss that, and Angela Mazzone has treated us so well. We have a great menu. You get great stories interwoven with
great food.
And we have a lot of reservations. So we have yet to have a wedding off of the connections at a Story Sunday.
Happen.
But we have a lot of folks who have met sitting around the table for 8 or 10 and come back and sit at the same table and
together.
Connect.
Yeah,
so
good.
it's a real bit of nice fellowship, which is really what storytelling is. It started in the caves as people couldn't watch television in the prehistoric ages, so they started to tell stories about what had gone on in life or how to explain things.
Well, I have no reservation about asking you to tell a story.
Well, I do have one, and it underlines a couple of other things we do. We're part of this community, so every ticket we sell at Proctor's for Telebration or for Wordplays, which is, Wordplays is, again, Sundays once a month at 2 o'clock, and they have themes for things. This one is coming up as life and death. But it's close to Halloween. It's on the 20th, so it's set that way. But $2 of every ticket, including ones that are discounted. So if you want a church to come or something like that, you buy tickets for like $8, which is the group price. $2 of that ticket price goes to the Schenectady Inner City Ministry.
Oh, they're wonderful, yeah.
And it goes specifically to provide the match against our summer lunch state grant. And I could go on about the need for that, but unfortunately 70% of the kids in the city schools
it's amazing, isn't it?
Need help with food. So we do that, and our church serves summer lunch, and I was part of the team at the Hamilton Hill Art Center. And I have to tell you, as a native, I didn't know where the Hamilton Hill Art Center was.
Oh, I know, yeah, it's on Schenectady Street, I think.
It's on Schenectady Street. It's across the street from Jerry Burrell Park, but I didn't know why Jerry Burrell Park was called Jerry Burrell Park.
And that you're going to tell us today?
Well, I Googled it, and I Googled the address or MapQuested so I wouldn't get lost up on the hill. And you know, it's a great story. Not a great story, but it's a story about how to preserve the memory of things. Jerry Burrell, in the 70s, was an accomplished artist who was the art director at the Hamilton Hill Art Center, working with Mickey Cohen to get kids engaged in the arts rather than fighting in the streets. And he had a hot stomach. He didn't know what was going on. He went to the emergency room 3 times, and they didn't treat him because he didn't have any insurance.
Oh.
And he died of a ruptured appendix. And in the outcry of that in 1974-75, they named the park after Jerry Burrell.
See, I did not know that.
And so every time you hear about Jerry Burrell, it's a memorial to some of the same issues that we're facing today. Here we are with the government
First
shutdown
day,
and Obamacare being implemented to solve that problem, and people not happy with that. At any rate, so I had all that with me, and I walked into the Hamilton Hill Arts Center, which is a lovely building.
It is, very nice.
And it tingles. It tingles. They had kids downstairs doing art, and we had the lunch upstairs. Everybody came up, and then I got asked to tell a story. So I told a story about when nights were olden. But I noticed something. I noticed on the wall there was a picture about Martin Luther King's march in the 60s. And the next day they asked me to tell a story. I didn't have to volunteer. And I looked around, and there was no reference to some of the early civil rights issues. And I thought of Marian Anderson. We've had this wonderful voice here today.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I told him the story about the president's wife, Mrs. Roosevelt, Eleanor, when Marian Anderson, black, didn't get
I remember.
invited, or couldn't because she was black, sing before the Daughters of the American Revolution.
That's something.
That Mrs. Roosevelt and the Secretary of the Interior, she actually told him, you get the Lincoln Memorial ready because she's going to sing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. And she gave a concert that was attended by about 100,000 people.
Yeah, she was wonderful.
And it was 1939.
Yeah.
And I can remember as a kid in the 50s going to hear Marian Anderson because she went on to have a phenomenal career in opera and in the stage. And it was the first time there was real presence in the professional arts for a black performer. And I told the kids that story, and I looked around and I said, and so you're going to be performers someday, probably in some way, because we perform whether we're a teacher in front of a class or whatever. And it's possible because of people like Martin Luther King and Marian Anderson. And I felt good about that story. And I felt so good about that story that I wrote an article for the paper. And I usually don't, but Ron Brill published it. It got in the paper. And I sat with Mark Chairs. And this is another pitch for folks out there. They're starting a jazz band at the Art Center, and they need instruments.
Okay.
So the next story I tell about the Art Center is going to be about a jazz band, and 3 folks who saw my article have already donated saxophones.
And we're almost out of time, so here we go.
Well, Story
We've got
Sundays.
2 more minutes.
Story Sundays this coming Sunday, and then through the year there's 6 other programs. Word plays here in October, and there's a slide on that. And that'll be fun, and Telebration is going to be just a great time.
And these stories are so great. I mean, you didn't even know it, but he told 2 stories here, just kind of into our conversation. No, that's great. Yeah. And these are the kind of things that you're going to hear, and you'll hear funny stories, and you'll hear sad stories and poignant stories. You're going to hear it all. And remember, this is a wonderful art. So please take some time to enjoy
and check our website, and we will be looking forward to seeing some new listeners and maybe some new storytellers.
I was going to say they could bring a story.
Right.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? You could come, to one of our storytelling open mics up in Saratoga too.
That would be fun.
We could go to dinner at the little.
I could run up there after George Regal.
That's right. George could chase you in his car. He could ride point. He could ride point. Oh, but this is always fun. We want to thank you for being such a high energy community activist and communicator. It's a great thing you do here, and it's wonderful to come down and just listen to the show as it comes up live too.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
So people should do that.
So good to see you, Joe.
Be well.
We've been talking with Alden Joe Doolittle, and we're going to find out more about storytelling when you go there to see the Telebration, the word plays, or you go to their Sunday Story Sunday at the Mansion.